On behalf of myself and my organization, I'm truly sorry for the loss of your loved ones.
Tonight, the RCMP make a promise to the families of Indigenous women and girls and vow to diversify the force.
We have to work with them and help coordinate means of travels.
Wildfires in Manitoba are keeping some First Nations on the move.
The depictions of our life, Inuit culture, language, dreams, imagination, stories.
And the Art Gallery of Ontario turns to Inuit curators as they open a major exhibit of Inuit art. Good evening, I'm Melissa Ridgen. The head of the RCMP has apologized to families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. It happened during the national inquiries.
I'm truly sorry for the loss of your loved ones.
It happened during the national inquiry stop in Regina this week during discussions about police policies and procedures. Over the past 18 months, the inquiry has heard stories from countless families criticizing the way the police handled cases of missing or murdered family members. Brenda Leckie is the first commissioner from the RCMP to be a witness at the inquiry hearings. She acknowledged the force has failed families in the past and vowed to improve relationships with Indigenous people in the future.
It is very clear to me that the RCMP could have done better, and I promise to you we will do better. These hearings have provided families with an opportunity to tell their truths, and I am listening, and I will continue to listen throughout my tenure as the Commissioner.
Leckie also said part of the solution is more Indigenous staff.
We can never go wrong having a more diverse organization. Absolutely. We need to be representative of the people we serve. So in the north, the population is Indigenous, so we need to be representative of that population.
During Wednesday's hearings, the inquiry heard from an officer who specializes in sexual and domestic assaults for the Anishinaabe Police Service. Detective Constable Alana Morrison talked about the challenges women in remote communities face when reporting cases of assault and what needs to be done to change that.
When a woman comes forward to police in the community, no matter how small the community or how large, the community gets word. It gets out. If there's a NAPS truck or a Anishinaabe police truck sitting outside of someone's home, I mean, people can only, make assumptions. But your business is not your business. So you got to deal with small communities. You got to deal with the fact that you're still in a small community where the offender lives. You are having to see their family. There should be more support when it comes to these ladies, these brave ladies, because I can't imagine, being ostracized in a small community for trying to do what's right, for trying to protect your own body, and for trying to help yourself. I think it's very important for any police service that deals with First Nation people, in particular, are more vulnerable victims, that they have that specialized training when it comes to interviews, when it comes to working these cases, and just that additional training. And I mean, you can't teach compassion, but finding specific individuals that are compassionate and care about the work that they do is so very important.
To northern Manitoba now, where an out-of-control wildfire has triggered a voluntary evacuation order for the town of Lynn Lake. Ground crews and 4 water bombers were fighting the fire, which is burning about 15 kilometers from Lynn Lake. About 100 people from the nearby Marcel Colomb First Nation who were evacuated to Lynn Lake on Sunday are being moved to Thompson. The province says that lightning sparked the fire. Nearly 40 square kilometers is what that covers. Wildfires continue to cause problems for First Nations across northern Manitoba, and while some are being evacuated, others are going home. Ashley Branson has that for us.
Nearly 100 residents of Marcel Colombe First Nation are displaced due to nearby fires. They self-evacuated to a nearby town of Lynn Lake, but since then, that's changed.
We've since now started moving them down towards Thompson because there has been a voluntary order, evacuation order in that community of Lynn Lake around people with high medical needs.
Now taking a look at another northern community. The people of Pangasi First Nation received good news this week. After being evacuated from their homes for more than a month due to wildfires, Canadian Red Cross confirms that 450 evacuees are set to return to their homes starting today, and they hope to have everyone back home by the end of the day tomorrow.
We have to work with them and help coordinate means of travel, so that would be float planes, or possibly helicopters to help get them back.
APTN reached out to a spokesperson from Pangasi who is involved with the cleanup of the community.
I was one of the supervisors here running a crew to remove all the fridges and freezers out of people's homes and to get the community back up and running, like power and water, telephone lines.
And is that all up and running again, or is it still?
No, it's all up and running.
Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Chiefs of Ontario made history today. They elected the first female Ontario Regional Chief to represent them. Roseanne Archibald unseated incumbent Isadora Day following a vote at their all-Chiefs meeting on Wednesday. Archibald, the chief of the Tequah-Tagamu Nation, was Deputy Grand Chief of the Anishinaabe-Aski Nation and the Grand Chief for the Mushkegowuk Council. The Chiefs of Ontario represent 133 First Nations in the province. It's time for a break, but when we come back, a story about a woman run over by a police car and why there was a 2-month delay in investigating. First, though, a look at the weather for Thursday, starting on the East Coast. 20 in St. John's with sun and cloud, rain, and 18 in Fredericton. Mainly sunny and 15 in Ikshawak, 13 in Kuujjuaq, 16 in Cartwright. 28 in Chibougamau, and rainy though in southern Quebec, 22 for high in Montreal. Rain in Ottawa and 24. Sunshine in Sault Ste. Marie and 23. Got some heat in northwestern Ontario, 27 in Sioux Lookout, 28 in Thunder Bay. To Manitoba, 25 in the Paw, Norway House, and Island Lake. Rain in 29 in both Dauphin and Winnipeg. To Saskatchewan, we've got rain in Estevan and Regina, but hot and sunny for Saskatoon and North Battleford, 25 and 26 there. And a mix of sun and cloud for Buffalo Narrows and 18. We've got 23 in La Ronge, 22 for Meadow Lake. A jury has found a Hamilton man not guilty of second-degree murder in the shooting death of a Mohawk man who broke into his truck. 28-year-old Peter Cahill admitted that he shot John Stiers, but said he fired in self-defense, believing Stiers had a gun. Cahill heard a noise outside his home early in the morning on February 4th, 2016. He went outside with a shotgun and fired at Stiers a short time later. The trial heard that Stiers did not have a gun at the time of the shooting. The 29-year-old was a father of 2 from 6 nations. Jeffrey Manishin is Cahill's lawyer.
Anything you want to say, and he said, I just want to thank the jury for the way that they dealt with the evidence, and in addition, thank family and friends for the support, because as you could imagine, to have to live with this stress over your head, this was a situation where we'll leave aside manslaughter as an option for the moment. He could be walking out the front door, a free man, or facing a life sentence. Those are the 2 options.
The case was being closely watched by Indigenous communities because of similarities to the controversial case in Saskatchewan involving the death of Colton Boushie. Stiers' community is reeling after news of the verdict. APTN's Beverly Andrews is in 6 Nations.
Calling on the Attorney General's office to appeal the not guilty verdict. The statement cites the exclusion of an interview of Cahill shortly after the incident took place and the exclusion of non-expert testimony and the opinion of the effect military training would have had on Cahill.
One of the things is they have to be culturally trained and sensitive to the history of Six Nations, to the history of Indigenous people in North America. And we have judges and we have JPs that don't have that piece. And so how can they make fair decisions when they don't understand that piece? Even with Gladue, how can they do this?
I was hoping for a guilty verdict, expected a not guilty verdict. I think our laws are set up to oppress who we are as Indigenous people. They're made to keep us either let people like Peter walk free.
The community here is planning a gathering to honor Jonathan's life. Beverly Andrews, APTN National News, Ashwaubenon.
An Inuk woman was seriously injured when hit by a police car in the Inuit territory in northern Quebec in April. Her family wants to know why it took 2 months for police to look into the incident. Reporter Tom Fenario joined us earlier from our Montreal bureau. Hi, Tom. First of all, can you explain to us what happened here?
Well, as the story was related to me by Maina Kulik, a 48-year-old Inuk woman, she had just shoplifted some hunting knives from the northern store in Umijiak, northern Quebec. That's Inuit territory, known as Nunavik. So she had shoplifted some knives, and the police had seen her, and apparently this led to a chase. And during the chase, she was hit by the police car. Now, police say that they had received some reports that Ms. Akuliak had been threatening people and that she did have knives. So there is a bit of like a juxtaposition in terms of stories there. What we do know for sure is that Ms. Akuliak suffered grievous injuries as a result of her being hit by the police car. This all happened in April 4th, by the way. She was airlifted to hospital in Montreal, and the list of her injuries is significant. I'm going to have to read them off here. Several broken ribs, 6 fractured vertebrae, a broken left arm, a punctured lung, as well as a lacerated kidney and liver. She is currently in her 3rd month of rehabilitation at a place in Montreal, and so that's where she is at now. She's expected to make a full recovery, but now the questions lead to why was it 2 months before the police decided to investigate?
Well, and that is my question. Why was it 2 months for police to decide to investigate?
Yes. Well, the way it works in Quebec is that, in this case, the police in question are the Kativik Regional Police Force. They are the police who take care of the 14 Inuit communities in Nunavik, northern Quebec. So they are going to be investigated by the Bureau d'Enquête Indépendant, which translates as the Independent Investigation Bureau. Basically, they're the unit paid for by Quebec that investigates all police shootings or injuries. So when someone is killed or grievously injured by police, then the Bureau d'Enquête comes in to look into it. However, the Bureau d'Enquête will not be involved unless they are notified that the injuries are serious. So the Bureau d'Enquête was told that the injuries were not serious. In fact, they were told that it was just a broken arm. When I asked the Bureau who told them that it was just a broken arm, they said it was the Kativik Regional Police that gave them that information back in April, which led to this delay, the 2-month delay. The reason why the Bureau has since taken it up is actually La Presse, newspaper in Montreal. They got to the story last June 5th, I believe, and now the Bureau took it up as soon as the La Presse article came up. So we're looking into it now as well.
So we've got some media attention on it now. What happens next?
What happens next is the Bureau will be looking, will take months, maybe even over a year. Normally when the Bureau d'Enquête goes into these investigations, they want to just find out if the police are worthy of a charge. But in this case, they need to not only look into see if there was any perhaps illegal behavior on the police's part, but they also need to look into the fact that was this a cover-up of sorts, or was it simply a bureaucratic mistake or misunderstanding? This is an Inuit community of only 400 people with limited resources. It's not clear yet exactly what's going to be going on. It will take a while to find out. As I said, Ms. Akuliak is recovering from her injuries, at least physically, although she has expressed that she feels like she was traumatized emotionally. She's looking forward to seeing her 9-year-old son, who is still back home.
Well, we'll be watching to see how this unfolds and we'll be checking back with you. Thanks so much for joining us, Tom.
Thank you, Melissa.
A little midday wardrobe change there from spilling all over myself. The government of Nunavut is facing a $1 million lawsuit from the former chief coroner who says she was fired without cause and interfered with while trying to do her job. Padma Suramala filed an 11-page statement of claim in the Nunavut Court of Justice on June 22nd. She seeks $1 million in damages, saying she was fired on April 25th and that the government limited her ability to act as coroner while interfering in her work. None of the allegations have been proven in court, of course, and the government of Nunavut has 25 days to respond to the claims. You can read the full story on our website, aptnnews.ca. Last week, the Justice for Our Stolen Children camp reassembled in front of the Saskatchewan Legislative Building, once again calling for a meeting with the provincial government. Now, after weeks of negotiations, both parties have set a date to meet after July 1st. Here is CTV's Regina Mantika with how the camp could affect Canada Day festivities there.
The provincial government still wants First Nations teepees out of Wascana Park to make way for Canada Day. The protest has now grown to 9 teepees, including representation from the File Hills Tribal Council. Those tending to the protest camp don't intend to move.
I think that Indigenous people have been accommodating long enough. I don't think it's up to us to be accommodating at this point.
The provincial cabinet has now agreed to meet with the protesters on July 2nd. It also stands by its earlier call for police to get the protesters out, citing the potential for crowd tensions on Canada Day.
The structures are not allowed to remain in place, and it'll be up to the Regina Police Service to enforce the law in that regard.
It would appear that the Canada Day Committee isn't waiting to find out what happens. A notice on its website has announced that activities are expanding to the north side of the park. Several events scheduled for the Legislative Building grounds are being moved across the lake and into the path of another controversy, the Connexus Credit Union tree-cutting operation. The committee did not respond to a request for details, but park protesters are aware of changes.
My understanding is that the July 1st committees have been willing to accommodate and change their locations.
The protest camp, along with commercial development in Wascana Park, are the 2 major issues facing government this summer. Expanding Canada Day celebrations to both sides of the lake could give residents an opportunity to take a first-hand look at both. Wayne Mantika, CTV News, Regina.
Time for another break, but first, here's the rest of your weather. In northern Alberta, we got 16 in Peace River, 20 in Grand Prairie. Further south, we've got Red Deer and Calgary, lots of sun and cloud, 21, 25 in Medicine Hat. Lots of cloud throughout BC, 20 in Quesnel, 21 in Kamloops, 16 in Port Hardy. Rain and 15 in Sandspit, 12 in Fort Nelson. Cloudy for the Yukon and 14 up in Old Crow, 19 down in Watson Lake. A mix of sun and cloud from Ray Lakes down to Fort's Resolution, and temperatures in the mid-teens for most. 14 in rain in Inuvik, 12 in Fort McPherson, 12 in Paulatuck. And we've got sun and cloud for much of Nunavut, 9 in Chesterfield, 5 in Repulse Bay, 4 in Resolute, 2 in Clyde River, 5 in Cape Dorset. The Art Gallery of Ontario has opened its latest Inuit art exhibit featuring 2 major artists. APTN's David Moses takes us there.
The Art Gallery of Ontario turned to the advice of 4 Inuit curators to help bring a new approach to their latest exhibit.
For this show, we knew we did not have in-house expertise for Inuit art, and we very much wanted to start working a different way anyway, a much more open way. So we, having partnered with Mitch, Mobilizing Inuit Cultural Heritage at York, and Anna Hudson, we created a team of Inuit artists, performers, etc., who became the curatorial team.
Last year, the AGO renamed its Canadian Arts Department to the Department of Canadian and Indigenous Art. Georgina Urelik was hired to lead the transition.
We in the Indigenous and Canadian Art Department believe that Indigenous art leads the conversation. So when we thought about our Inuit collection, which is one of the largest in the world, we thought we absolutely have to speak to Inuit artists and bring them so that they can lead and shape and conceive this exhibition.
Kuzi Curley is from Cape Dorset, Nunavut, and says promoting art from the north is changing.
We're living in the new age And us Inuit is part of Indigenous people, and we're getting more involved in these kind of shows, so that's pretty important.
I'm from Cambridge Bay originally, but had been moved to the south, Sudbury, since I was just small. And I've been living in Ottawa for the past 13 years. It was all up to us to kind of conceive this exhibit.
Lakaluk Williamson Bathory is originally from Greenland, but now lives in Iqaluit.
These are our stories. These are the dreams and visions and the depictions of our life, Inuit culture, language, dreams, imagination, stories. And it has to be told by us, otherwise who's telling these stories anyway?
The exhibit features the work of the grandmother of Inuit art, Kinowak Ashevak, and her nephew, Tim Pitsulak.
One of the things I hope, and we hope, that you do when you go through this exhibition is to learn a great deal about two amazing artists, but also the culture and the community they come out of.
The AGO exhibit, entitled Tunikarusiangit, will be open to the public June 16th until August 12th. David Moses, APTN National News, Toronto, Ontario.
With another powwow season well underway, it seems they're starting them off younger and younger every year. Here's a story about a 2-year-old boy who stole the show in Alberta.
Come see. Anytime 2-year-old Albert of Sasson hears the sounds of a powwow, you can see he takes notice.
Is that you?
He's watched YouTube videos of powwow dancers since he was born, but this time he's the one in the video. Tiny Albert making an enormous impression at a Camrose powwow celebrating National Indigenous Day.
Everybody was like, oh, he's so cute. And like he kind of like stole the show, right? Because he was dancing with all of us adults.
Albert's mother grew up dancing, but says she didn't begin doing it seriously until 6 years ago when her sister, who loved to dance, passed away.
So I continued, and then once Albert was born, I kind of just said I wanted to continue teaching my son our cultural ways.
Bringing Albert along to various powwows and Indigenous events, a part of that. And where, by watching, Albert learned to dance.
He listens to the songs very well, and so when he's watching like the men do the different songs, he's aware of what you're supposed to do in certain parts of the song. So he's like basically self-taught.
Even at home in his family's living room, Albert can put on a show.
Proud, very proud. It's just because he did it all on his own, right? And I didn't have to make him. He just loves it, and seeing him happy, it makes me happy.
Nicole Weisberg, CTV News, Edmonton.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and I will see you again tomorrow.